Hello and welcome to People in Profit. I'm Charles Pellegrin. Today we'll focus on the World Bank. The Multilateral Development Bank was created in 1944 with a simple mission statement: financing reconstruction post-World War II, which then evolved into reducing global poverty and fostering development. Over decades, the mission stayed the same, but the methods have evolved, often through trial and error. And in an ever-changing international landscape, that evolution will keep unfolding. The results are there even if many different forces have contributed to them. In 1981, around 40% of the world's population lived in extreme poverty. By the late 2010s, that share had dropped to just under 10%. So to talk about this further, we're lucky to be joined by Axel van Trotsenburg. He's the outgoing senior managing director at the World Bank and has been a part of the institution for close to 40 years. Axel van Trotsenburg, thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thanks for having me.
I want to start by talking about the situation the bank finds itself in today. The mission statement is the same, but the context has changed, perhaps for the worse. More countries are facing high levels of debt that they can't easily add on to. International aid has gone down. Economic growth is not on stable ground. How can the World Bank maintain momentum in such a context?
Well, the World Bank has always been a learning and an adjusting organization. We have to go with the times and adjust because at the end of the day, to stay relevant, we have to be relevant for the membership, supporting countries when they provide needed financing, but also ideas. You just mentioned that the mission has stayed always the same, which is partly correct. It has been the strong focus on poverty reduction, and we have contributed to a great deal to reduce global poverty over time. But we have also amended our vision and mission by saying we would like to end poverty on a livable planet, meaning that we need also to recognize that today there are many global public good challenges, such as climate change, that require decisive action. And that is what we have been doing. So what is very important to see that an international organization can only thrive if it is willing to always adjust to the times and the challenges that we are facing and be fast and deliver results.
There are so many fronts to development, and you've mentioned it with the climate change discussion. One other front is healthcare. The World Bank has a goal of helping 1.5 billion people access quality health services by 2030. The institution promises a smarter use of resources to achieve that goal. What does that mean exactly?
Well, first of all, the focus that there are core issues that still need to be addressed, particularly in the poorest country, but not only there. And think of also malnutrition that is also affecting still in many middle-income countries. So what you will have to do is a clear focus on the issues that we would like to address, and then work across the spectrum with the countries, with governments, with sectoral ministries, with the private sector, and with other organizations to make this happen. We think that this is how we can best proceed. And I think what we have been seeing by formulating ambitious targets, we can actually generate a lot of support across organizations to work together to make this happen. So we have seen this is a powerful tool to set ambitious goals, but also recognizing that in many areas, such as health, but in many other areas, we still need to do a lot.
Mm-hmm. One of these other areas is agriculture. In large swaths of the developing world, the norm in that sector is smallholder farming. 500 million such farmers produce most of the world's food. And the potential of these businesses, which is what they are, is far from being fully unleashed. What can be done here?
Well, I think, first of all, to again focus on agriculture is important for a couple of reasons. First of all, what you see is a huge potential to create jobs in it, and particularly when you look in Africa, where many people remain under or unemployed. And so agriculture is a great generator of jobs. Also, what we are seeing is that there is still a lot of hunger out in the world, and this is affecting like 700 million people. So what we would like to see is how can we provide the right incentives to agriculture, and particularly to the private sector, that actually production can increase, but also jobs be created, and that we can actually kill two birds with one stone, creating jobs, but also helping to reduce decisively hunger in the world.
Jobs always at the heart of every conversation, seemingly the motor to development. I want to take a step back here and look at how the banks changed over the years. For many people, the mere mention of the World Bank brings back memories of the structural adjustment programs of the 1980s and the 1990s, programs that led to real hardship for people, for example, with the privatizations of state-owned companies and the removal of subsidies. I'm thinking of Zambia and its copper industry, for instance. What has the World Bank learned from that particular period in its history?
Well, first of all, that with these structural adjustment programs in the early 80s, I think mistakes were made. But also, I would say that the World Bank actually learned quite a bit out of it. We got also a lot of criticism, justified criticism. And when I joined, for example, in 1988, actually a lot of these weaknesses of the first generation structural adjustment programs had been addressed. And particularly the main criticism was that the social component was not sufficiently emphasized and dealt with. I think subsequently we have changed. The other thing is what has changed is at that time we were actually a very Washington-based organization where everything was covered from Washington. Since actually the last 30 years, we have moved out in the field. We are working with governments hand in hand every day. We have 140 offices. 55% of our operational staff is now in the countries. This makes a huge difference. We better understand how the governments are acting, what the constraints are, and how we can best tailor-make our programs to the needs of the country. And it has paid off. And this is also the way to go in the future, that we are working closer with the government, and not only the government, also with the private sector, think tanks and NGOs, so that we actually get a variety of views, but also understand better how this organization can respond to the development challenges of a particular country.
So a more collaborative, cooperative approach nowadays compared
Absolutely.
to 40.
And that is not only, this is not only limited then with the national or authorities or organizations, also internationally. I'm thinking here of the UN system or other multilateral development banks. And what you have been seeing over time is a very close collaborative arrangement that has been really beneficial, particularly in, for example, in fragile situations where work and collaboration with organizations like the World Food Programme or UNICEF have really paid off.
Well, we're talking about this approach, this collaborative approach, but this is happening as the World Bank is still deeply historically tied to the United States. But what does that mean today when the United States is led by a government that's openly retreating from world affairs and multilateralism as it defined it itself when it was the United States of, let's say, a bygone era?
I would first say that the United States has been the founding member and has been a leader on this. And as in any country, there are elections and there are different views. We have seen that in the past with different governments. We have, after all, 189 countries. And our challenge is to bring a value package to the world community and see how we can unite together on a development agenda for developing countries. And by and large, we have been succeeding. I just want to give an example. The International Development Association, which mobilizes money for the poorest countries. This is our fund for the poorest countries. We mobilized $100 billion last year, and every major country has been contributing, including the United States. So I think our challenge is to build bridges and to find common ground. And that is not always easy. Nobody is saying that these kind of jobs are easy, but it can be done, and we have been successful at this.
Axel van Trotsenburg, you'll be ending your career at the World Bank in a matter of weeks. Is there any wisdom you could share for those who will be continuing their work at the institution? Notably some fresh faces like former Irish Finance Minister Pascal Donoghue, who's joining as Managing Director and Chief Knowledge Officer soon.
Well, what I've learned is the absolute critical role of multilateralism. It is simply not possible to solve today's world problems by one country or two countries. You will need international cooperation. And this international cooperation has paid off in terms of welfare, in terms of growth in the world, but also in terms of really solving hard problems that can be in the climate area. It can be also in war-type situation. We will need that cooperation. I think, therefore, the World Bank is a good vehicle, I would argue, for peace and for development, and we need to do that with other organizations. So I would plea more than ever for international cooperation, international solidarity, and that you will find in the World Bank.
Axel van Trotsenburg, you are the Senior Managing Director at the World Bank. Thank you so much for speaking with us and for taking a look back at your 40-year or so career at that institution.
Thank you very much.
And that's all for today. As usual, thank you for watching and listening. If you like what we do, please subscribe to People and Profit on the podcast platform of your choice. In the meantime, stay tuned to France 24.
J'ai senti des balles siffler au-dessus de ma tête, où il y a des personnes qui sont mortes à côté de moi.
Il y avait des gens qui étaient allongés au sol, il y avait du sang, il y avait des cris, il y avait les tirs, il y avait l'odeur.
On entend les terroristes qui découvrent des gens cachés dans une pièce.
On s'est parlé avec ma femme, je lui ai dit que je l'aimais. Elle m'a dit je veux pas mourir, je veux voir les enfants.
C'est une sorte de remise en question du sens de la vie, en fait. J'ai beau savoir que je suis chanceuse, d'accord, mais qu'est-ce que j'en fais, en fait, maintenant de ma vie?
Dark Friday, 10 years after Paris's deadly attacks on France 24.